Hello and welcome to Happy Hour again, coming to you today from the beautiful social distancing home studios located in Ventura and Camarillo, California. Welcome back to Happy Hour again. I am Curtis Taylor. I'm also here with Joby Yobi. Hey, he's up there, top left corner on my screen, and bottom center, Jason Hendrick. This is, it feels like we had a week off last week. I think mostly just because none of us were drinking the last show, so
that's not true.
Wow,
that's not true.
Someone may have had some breakfast beer.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Right.
This guy right here.
I'll say it was our earliest.
It was good.
Show
It was
ever.
worth it. I don't know if I've ever had a PBR at 10 a.m. but it filled its gap. It did what it was supposed to.
You didn't go take a nap right after we logged off?
I didn't, because I didn't drink the full can. It was a 24-ounce can. I used some of it as the prop for our backdrop and some in my glass. Technically there was still some work to be done. Although I could do it from home, there was still work to be done during the day.
In the off here, right before we came on, we're just talking about, I was just commenting that I feel I have a little more energy tonight. Maybe it's because I've already had one beer and getting ready for at least another one, if not two more here as we go through the evening. We'll see what happens, I guess. And we're trying to.
What are you drinking tonight? What beer has got your fancy?
Well, tonight, in honor of IPA Day, which is coming up here this weekend, I believe it's August 1st, because there's a beer day on nearly every single day of the year, I guess. But I am drinking Union Jack. I'm going tasting the new recipe, perhaps. I'm trying to figure out. They changed their labeling a little bit, so I'm just trying to figure out because why they changed the label, if it was a recipe change. It is at 7%. I don't remember it necessarily being that high. Joby, Jason, do you remember what?
I think it was.
Was it?
I think.
And part of the reason.
I don't know if it's the same recipe or not. That's a good question.
Well,
I'm trying to look right now to see if there have been some adjustments. We may just be falling into that trap of, well, I remember this beer and there's something that's different. It doesn't taste like what I remember.
Way back.
How many of those guys have we crossed paths with?
Yeah.
I do like it. There's some nice sweetness and a good hoppy balance to it. One of the reasons I picked this though is that this week is when we moved to California in 2009. So I don't even know how many years ago. That was 11 years. So we're working into our 12th year now. And when we moved in and we met the movers, there was the truck and three moving guys. And for lunch, I went down in my local Subway, which was just down the street from me at the time, and picked up sub sandwiches for everyone, a 6-pack of barrel. What is it? 33. What's the like the
Pale 30 something.
Pale 33.
Pale 31.
31. All right. And then and Union Jack. So I brought beer back for the movers just to endear them to me so that they would not hold my stuff hostage out in the front yard, right? But I remember drinking.
It's like that scene in Happy Gilmore where they're moving all grandma's stuff out of the house and the guy is trying to move the couch out. Adam Sandler jumps on the couch and is like, no. You guys aren't moving any of this stuff.
Right. It was one of those big worries because I think it was one of those news magazine shows like 48 Hours where they were highlighting somebody just right before we moved where the movers they took their stuff to a locker and then told them they weren't going to get it back unless they paid a ransom essentially. And it was so I was like, okay, I'm going to pay these guys off in beer just so that one, maybe they'll fall asleep and then I can get everything in the house if I need to, or that they'll just be happy that I gave them Subway and beer, I guess. So I'm doing a little throwback to that day, moving back. Jason, you've been here longer than I have, but it still seems, and Joby the longest of us all, I suppose, but it doesn't seem like it could be that long, and yet it doesn't seem like I've lived anywhere else either. Like it's a weird sort of I don't know, cognitive.
You're a little bit of a time warp on that one.
Right. I mean,
I can appreciate what you're saying because I've been out here since 2004. My first year out here, I lived in Santa Barbara on a buddy's couch while I was with a traveling software position. So I wasn't in town much. And then since 2005 on, I have been in Ventura But my folks were just here this past week for my son's 3rd birthday, and having them back here and now leaving this morning, does remind me of the difference. But to your point, like there are some days where I think back, like, shit, how long have I been out here? And like, has it really been almost 16 years? And the answer is, yeah, buddy. And I still can't get over the cost of living out in California. I grew up in the Midwest roots, and my mom loves to look at real estate and homes and potential. We were doing some comparison on Saturday, and she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe this." She's trying to get me to look at the booklet and the website. I'm like, I can't get in the middle of that stuff. I can't think about it. I don't want to be in the middle of it. It doesn't compare. I just can't do it.
Yeah, there's a, and maybe Joby, I'm curious how you feel about this. Because when I moved here, I had just given up a teaching job, and I was essentially becoming a house husband. And so it was my job to take the kids to school and make sure that they were back and forth. And with a kid in kindergarten, which was doing half days, I was back and forth from that school like 4 times a day, it seemed like, so, but up until recently when I started teaching as a professor, and even still it doesn't feel like a full-time job, there's a weird time thing where, and maybe it's because there's no seasons, where everything just kind of flows. Do you feel that at all?
Yeah, I think there's well, first of all, I want to say house husband sounds awesome right about now.
Yeah.
Especially since there's no school. There's nowhere to go. It sounds awesome. That's number one. The other, yes, there is. I thought we used to have the joke that it was fire season and the rest of the year or something like that. And you got to experience that.
Right.
So we definitely have like fire season and the rest of the year. Yeah. We don't have seasons. We have the holiday landmarks. Like, okay, it's Christmas time. Let's get cozy up to the fire where it's 16 degrees. But I don't know. I think you're right. I wanted to ask both of you because the new hot topic with the whole COVID thing going on is people wanting to leave California. And as you two are, well, you've been here a long time, but you're technically transplants. Would you live anywhere else in the U.S. now that you've lived in California? I think Joe Rogan was the latest one I saw who wants to leave the state. I think he wants to go to Texas.
He said Joe's talking about going to Texas.
Texas, right? Yeah.
The thought has crossed my mind. I love California. I love, Ventura County. I really felt like I've found some roots here. But again, that cost of living, man, I'm, looking at apartments and housing prices. And it was a spoof, but we were driving up the coast and went through Summerlin, and there's the Montecito Ranch is for sale. And it's not the equivalent, it's way outlandish, top of the spectrum, but it's like a $9 billion home and ranch. However, when we are looking at housing equivalents to my folks' home, if you picked up my parents' home square footage wise, not including the basement, just the first floor with the garage, and put that here in Ventura, it would go up like 5 or 6 times in value just based on geographic location. And it's the exact same kind of property. They're looking at homes that needed the same amount of work, same square footage. And, they're in the almost $900,000 range, where my folks, are maybe 250 to 3.
But there is a reason why it's so expensive. There is a reason why it's so expensive. And I think most of us know when it's October, November, and we're still wearing, or it's Thanksgiving and we're wearing shorts and flip-flops in the morning. I think that's the reason.
This past week, man, there's been some.
I know it cooled off. It is cold. It is cold. You're right. It's cool. But yeah, I think that's there's definitely there are times when I look out and I go, okay, this is why it costs that much to live here. But there are other times where it's like, yeah, it is definitely expensive. But we're
and I got
in
some
that market.
Roots in terms of friends and that, the answer would be no. But if it weren't for my son, just based strictly on finances and cost of living, what we're making salary wise out here could stretch a hell of a lot further in some other areas. So there's always that consideration. But I think with all the other impacts, COVID is starting to open people's eyes to that as well. What is the true cost of living? What's essential? What's not essential? And I think over the next probably 3 to 5 years, there may be some adjustments. Maybe not in the housing market, but I think in terms of people's lifestyle and how they're funding that lifestyle may start to evolve.
Yeah, and I think these people are leaving. The people, for whatever side of the fence you're on, the people that are wanting to leave are leaving for, I think, political and um, well, how do you call it? Resistance reasons, resistance to the like I said, whatever side of the fence you're on, it's okay. But they're getting tired of some of the California politics, I think,
Right.
and that may be the reasoning. I think in Joe Rogan's case, that might be the case. But yeah, I think.
Well, I mean, I guess I am not naive enough anymore to think that I'll be staying or living in the same place the rest of my life. Whereas when I was in South Dakota, I actually figured that that's where I was going to be, like that there wasn't really going to be another move. And now with those changes, I don't want to, or I'm not planning on it anytime soon, but if it comes up, it goes. If it's time to move, then I guess that's what it's time to do that. But yeah, no, I will. I think I was always at heart. I thought I was always a West Coast person. And since my mom was from Seattle, I was thinking it was the Pacific Northwest. But damn, that's way too much cold and rain. Like, I am so glad I picked this part of the West Coast to like settle down in for a while. Because, yeah, I don't know if there's much I can
Where
do.
would be your next location if you guys had like?
No, I don't know if I would leave.
Couples retreat. If I put a virtual gun to your head and made you pick a choice. Sir, you don't put a virtual gun to your therapist's head.
I don't know that I could live. I don't know that I could live anywhere else, man. It's pretty damn. And I'm a LA to Ventura, so.
So you made a seismic shift there.
Yeah, and every time we go back to the valley, and I have a lot of roots in the valley, and so does my woman, and we can't stand it. We just want to get back to Ventura as fast as possible. And she's been here a shorter time than me, and she's already. So I think your timeline that you're talking about, or your time space
continuum
freezing is accurate, because I think once you're here in this county for a little while, it does feel, because I've been here since 2006, and that's 14, 15 years already too.
Right.
And it just feels like I've been here a long time. And so yeah, no, I don't know. That's a good one. I don't think I could live anywhere else but California. Different parts of California, maybe. I think that would be fun, but.
Well, I think what's important, it actually may lead into what our show topic is going to be about tonight, and that's identifying the spaces where you just feel at home and welcome right away. Because there are things I look for. As much as I hate the cold in the winter, there are places that are super intriguing because of the feel I get when I go there and the services available. Like, I love Denver. I really appreciate the city of Denver, and even moving out away from the greater population of Denver a little bit. The winters are horrid, but yet there is that distinction between seasons, like you were talking about earlier, Curtis, and yet there is a lot of cultural places to go, museums and big city activities. There's some places in the Pac Northwest. Seattle's a fun place. I really like Atlanta. Same kind of idea. There's so much to do in the heart of the city, and the transit allows you to get out into the suburbs quickly. But there's a lot of small little pockets in those cities too that provide pubs and restaurants that have a unique feel that don't remind you how much in a big city you really are. And I think, when we talk about that third space coming up in the next segment, we'll probably touch on some of those types of things, of why an area feels warm and inviting and why people gravitate towards it.
Yeah. And I think, Joby, you kind of alluded to this too, about the climate and the reason why it's so expensive here. And in every place that Jason just talked about, I'm like, oh yeah, I could do that. And then I'm like, oh wait, no, I can't do Denver in the winter. Oh yeah, Atlanta sounds really great. Oh no, there's no way I could do that in the summertime. And this is coming.
There's an answer for all of them. There's never an answer for California.
Right. And coming from South Dakota, which people may not, they probably understand that it's really, really cold in the wintertime. It's as cold as not as cold as, say, North Dakota. I mean, we have a few degrees warmer than North Dakota, but in the summertime, it's the same as the heat and humidity can be as oppressive there as it is in Washington, D.C. during the summertime, And so I look at that and go, well, God, I grew up in some really wild extremes, but man, California really made a baby out of me. I sit in that nice little space of about the lowest I want to go is 50 degrees, and the highest I want to go is about 75, right?
Yep.
So like
You're
slide that
not
up.
wrong about that. Joey, we were under the tent at Barrel House the other night, me and my folks having dinner, and my dad was cruising in a t-shirt, and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what, I'll be back, and I had to run up to the apartment and get a North Face jacket because the wind was whipping through. And I've grown acclimated, and you mentioned DC, Curtis. In the summer, it's like it can be like walking through a warm, wet blanket right out of the dryer.
Yeah.
It's so thick and humid, and I just not my style of living.
Yeah, I did think of another season, Curtis. We have Patagonia season. Don't forget.
Yeah.
That's when, and I'm guilty as well. That's when your shorts with your Patagonia jacket and your flip flops and your beanie is on. That means it's getting about 59 or 58 degrees outside.
Some of my
All the
favorite
heat going
weather.
out the top half of your body.
I know.
Yeah, business up top,
Right.
party on the bottom.
Well, I think about when we first started redoing, the repour, so to speak, for happy hour. There were plenty of times I was out in the garage and I had my my Back to the Future vest on because I needed to keep my core temp up because I was in the garage and it was 50 or 60 degrees out. So, but I still had shorts on. So I totally get the Patagonia season, definitely.
Yeah, Patagonia season. I don't know. I don't know if that's the official name, but that's a.
It is now.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
I can't wait to see that
When
T-shirt
summer
though.
turns into Patagucci.
Yeah, Patagucci. Let's not forget about Patagucci. I know it's Patagonia versus North Face. That's it. It's one or the other.
Yeah. Well, we're coming up on a break here, 7:55 for those of you who are keeping track and watching us live, joining in. We've got a special guest coming up, a friend of mine, Jacob Jenkins, Dr. Jacob Jenkins. He is a professor at CSU Channel Islands, organizational communication. And, he loves to talk about, his specialty is talking about the way things are organized and what it communicates. Now that seems really heavy, but we're going to take that theory and we're going to talk about coffee shops. We might hit a library if we feel brainy here or nerdy in a couple minutes, but the big one is bars. It's this third space, all these places that we hang out at. Jason, it looked like you're about
to break and put on my hipster shorts.
I
Those are all the new
I was considering a bow tie and everything else this evening, but anyway, so stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. We'll be talking with Jacob Jenkins, and he'll be telling us all about what third space philosophies are. So we'll be back in just a minute.